Phone. We've found what you're looking for. Welcome to the Let's Talk Cabling podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you got to ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the cool kids, they know where to be. After Hours Live with Chuck Bowser, RCDD, because we know that's where all the cool cats hang out. Welcome to the live stream on TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Still haven't done the stupid Instagram thing on the other phone yet. You know, one thing about Chuck, he's a procrastinator. Yep, you heard it. You heard it from the newsflash. Chuck is a procrastinator. You heard it from me first. So it's After Hours Live. So make sure you put your questions in the comments, whether it's on TikTok or in the comments on your screen. I do have some questions to go through first. I'll go through those, and then we'll do the other questions. But we have a routine. We got to stick with the routine, right? First one is, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? Because this is After Hours Live. Yeah. And so I'm drinking water. So boring. Actually, it's not water again. It's a mixture. This one's actually a mixture of Zevia root beer and water. Dr. Pepper and root beer, right? Cable stretchers are real. I'm going to have to come back to that one. So make sure you take a sip of your drink. What are you guys drinking? Just a cup of ice on Sprinter IT. Hey, welcome, buddy. He's drinking exotic Fiji water. I want to know, does Fiji water really come from Fiji? That's what I want to know. You know, if anybody ever heard of Zephyr Hills water, right? Golf Guy W is drinking a Pepsi. Zephyr Hills water, they're not too far from my house. They're maybe about 30 minutes from my house. So let's kind of pop into the other one here. So Louisiana is in the house. I'm assuming that's Louisiana. Good morning from LA. That could be Los Angeles or Louisiana. Could be either or. Let me know, Brady. Which is it? Shotzi's in the house. Shotzi is one of my Patreon members, one of my best ones at that. And Brady's also drinking water as well. Now, before we get going, let's go over some normal things. Did you notice the QR code on the LinkedIn stream? Right? Let me know if you saw the QR code. Oh, you know why? Because I don't have it on. Dang it, man. Here it is. Let's put that thing on. Dink. There we go. See the QR code? Click on that. Buy me a cup of coffee. I'm so poor I can't even buy my own coffee. If you want to schedule 15 minutes with me to answer your ICT, Greetings, Indiana, your ICT questions about copper, fiber, installation, certification, design, project management, quality control, career path questions. This is the place for the next 30 minutes. The next 30 minutes. That's where we're going to be answering that. So make sure you do that. Schedule that thing. If you've been on this show more than once, you know the next step is the acronym challenge. The acronym challenge. Now, for those who don't know me, every weekday morning at 8:10 on LinkedIn, I do an acronym challenge. I put up an acronym. This week, we're working through the wireless chapter. So all the acronyms this week come from chapter 16, the wireless chapter in the TDMM. So the one for this week is IBSS. IBSS. Now, before we get too much further along, I got to do my normal acronym statement. Help control the acronym population. Don't forget to spay or neuter your acronym. We have enough acronyms already. We don't need any more. We just don't. So again, this acronym this week is IBSS. Do you know what that acronym stands for? If you do, put it in the chat box. IBSS. 10,000 points to the first person who gets that acronym correct. 10,000 points to the first person who gets IBSS correct. I kind of knew this would be a hard one. I knew it. I knew it when I put it up there, but Chuck doesn't like make things easy for everybody. So what does IBSS stand for? It stands for, drum roll please, Independent Basic Service Set. Independent Basic Service Set. And Bixby, I don't know what this is. I've never had to deal with one. So Bixby defines this as a group of stations in a wireless local area network or that communicate directly with each other without the use of a central access point. This type of network is also called an ad hoc network. Ad hoc network. So there you go. That's what IBSS stands for. Now, the next step is I'm going to go and clear that acronym challenge off the screen so you guys don't have to sit there and stare at it all day long. So now, the next step, the thing I got to cover here in just a second, is the Motivational Minute. I do a Motivational Minute every Monday morning, but I'm also starting to do them on Thursday nights. So I want you to listen carefully to this one, okay? If it doesn't bring peace, profit, or purpose, then don't give it your time, your energy, or your attention. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat on the toxic people. If you work for a toxic company, get out of there. Your life's too short. Way too short. Way too short. Next thing I want to bring up is, again, I mentioned I'm getting ready to hit the road here soon. In 2 weeks, I'm doing Tampa, Miami, and Orlando. So if you're interested in doing a meetup, make sure that you shoot me a message with me. We can meet up after work for a cup of coffee. Big correction. So last podcast, we talked about manufacturer warranty programs, right? And when we talked about the manufacturer warranty programs, I made a statement that was incorrect. So I got to correct myself. In that podcast, I said that most manufacturer programs cost between $200 and $500, right? I think that was the numbers I used. And then I said, if you compare that to a Bixby class, that's $1,000 to $2,000 per day. I was wrong. The $1,000 to $2,000 was in my head because that's the cost of the course, not for a day. So that was incorrect. I want to apologize for that. If you look at Bixby's classes, the average hourly rate for a continuing education credit from them is about $89. Kenny Lee, I'm not taking accepts of any co-host right now. At the end of this live stream, I will. Okay. So the average rate that Bixby charges for a continuing education credit is about $89. They have some 1-hour courses that go for $50. They have some other courses that go for a little bit over $100. It kind of depends whether it's a virtual led class, 1-hour webinar. It also depends on what the content is. But when you average them all out, and I've got like 50 or 60 in my spreadsheet, when I looked them all up, and it averaged out to $89 a credit hour. So if you multiply that out by 8-hour day, you're looking at $700-ish. So my statement's still true that it's cheaper to get CECs from manufacturer. Quality may not be the same as a Bixby class, but it's going to be cheaper and you'll get the same number of hours. So, but I just want to make sure I corrected that because I said $2,000 a day. It's not $2,000 a day. So there we go. That's corrected, right? Evening, the Master Tech. How you doing? One more thing, and then we'll get started with the questions. I'm working on a t-shirt and hat design. Once I got an artist working on it now. You should have this design submitted to me the next week or so. Once that's done, I'm going to put it out there for people to buy shirts and stuff. So watch out for that. Let's go to the first question. The first question is from Valoria Diego on Instagram. Now, Valoria asked me, I did a short TikTok video, and I do TikTok videos. They also get shared to Instagram and Facebook. And I did a thing about what do you do if you've got a bunch of cables not labeled? Well, you use an office locator kit. Well, office locator kits are also called cable locator kits. Everybody's got just different names for these things. So Valoria asked me, which one do I recommend? Now, before I start talking about recommending them, first let's show you what an office locator kit looks like, right? So an office locator kit has a main device, kind of like the main part of a tester. And then it's got these little plugs that you can put in RJ45s, or they got coax ones. So they come in different sizes. You can get the ones with eight RJ45s, some with 5 RJ45s, and so on. And you can plug them into a bunch of offices out on the floor, go back, and then find those 5 real quick on the patch panel, right? So when you plug in the main control unit on the patch panel on the telecom room, it will tell you what number is on the other side of that, because each of those RJ45s have a unique number: number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and 5. So it's a real quick, easy way to locate a bunch of cables if they weren't labeled. Now, pro tip number 1, always label your cables. Always label your cables. It's that simple, right? But let's say you have to go behind somebody and somebody else did the job and they didn't label the cables, or better yet, they're labeled incorrectly. That happens. So this office locator kit is going to be a great tool to help you, especially if you are working alone. Because what you do is you walk out, just literally walk by those jacks, plug them in, go back, you can identify a bunch real quickly. Yeah, you can use a tone and probe, but it's going to take you a little bit more time. It just is, right? So now let's talk about this. So they asked me which one did I recommend. And I can't really recommend one, because the one that I used to use 25 years ago, it bit the dust 20 years ago, and I haven't replaced it since. So I have not done my due diligence in order to actually recommend one. Meaning, if I wanted to recommend one, I'd have to get a bunch of them and compare them. Well, I'm not going to go spend $500 on a bunch of office locator kits to do it. Now, if the manufacturers want to send them to me, I will certainly do a review, a video on it and tell you my opinions on it. So don't give it to me if you don't think I'm not going to call out the bad stuff with the good stuff. But if one of the manufacturers wants to send me one, I will certainly do a review video on that. So I just did a real quick search on the internet, and I found a couple that I found interesting. The first one is from Home Depot. That's the one on the left screen for those people on the LinkedIn stuff. So the Home Depot sells what's called the Klein Scout Pro 3. It has 5 RJ45 plugs and 5 coax plugs, and it's going to run you about $90. Now, Klein's a really well-known manufacturer, so good quality, right? You would think. The next one is a knockoff, and it's part number NF388. I'm not sure who the manufacturer is, but it just looks it looks cheap to me. It just does. Now, the NF88 has 8 RJ45 plugs, and it's going to run you about $80. Then there's the Gennard cable locator kit, and it's CM17. The CM17 has 80. It has 8 RJ45s and 8 coax plugs, and it's going to run you about $90. And Gennard, sorry, I said it wrong. They have good quality products. I'm not sure if I put them up with Klein. Maybe the hand tools, yes, but I've never had one of their electronics. So I'd have to get one of the electronics to see if it's going to have the same quality as a Klein. And then the one all the way on the right-hand side is the Klein 501-852. That sucker has 18 RJ45s. 18. So you can individually identify up to 18. By the way, that was another question submitted by somebody. I think it was Chicken Wings to Go who asked me if there was one larger than 8. There is one. It's the Klein 501-852. It's going to cost you a little bit more money because it has 18, not 8. It's going to run you about $168. Again, I found that one on Amazon, and it comes with a little corduroy kind of pouch. So here are my tips for anybody who's looking to buy an office locator kit. Stay with a known product like the Klein or the Gennard. You're really going to want something that's has a good return policy. And again, if one of those manufacturers wants to send me one to do a review video, get in touch with me. I'll do a review video on it. Look up the Fluke MS2- kit. I will look that up. It didn't come up in my search when I did it though for some reason. Whichever one you buy, make sure you take good care of it. That's going to be the key, right? Make sure you buy one that's going to last you a while. Period. Right. So that takes care of that question. Let's go to the next question. The next question, this comes from James on TikTok during the week. I did a short video on bridal rings. Okay, and for those who may not know what a bridal ring is, it's just it's a metal rod that's bent into a circle, and then one end has like a here. Let me put a picture up on the screen so you can see it. It's got threads on one side, so you can screw it into like a flange, a hammer-on flange clamp, or one of the bolt-on flange clamps, and it's a way to hold cables. The old phone guys used to use these things all the time for the voice cabling, for the horizontal cabling, for the backbone cabling, stuff like that. Bridal rings are not recommended for high-performance data cabling, and the reason they're not is because when the cable passes through that ring, if you've got a bunch of them, they're going to be resting on that narrow ring. You get a bunch of them in there, that's going to cause the ones on the bottom, the cables on the bottom, to get crushed. When they get crushed, they've caused the pairs to go close together, and then that's going to affect the performance of those cables. So bridal rings are not recommended for high performance data cabling. Now, with that being said, and here's why. I forgot to mention this. Category rated cable can weigh anywhere between 17 and 40 pounds per 1,000 feet. That's why it's got the weight. Now, bridal rings are perfect for interduct. They're perfect for like your high pair count cable backbones, like 50 pair, 25 pair, stuff like that. They're perfect for that kind of stuff, but they're not really recommended to be used for high performance data cabling. So when you look at the bridal rings, there's a couple different kinds. On the left hand screen, on the LinkedIn line stream, you'll see the traditional one, right? But there are some other ones out there that are kind of cool. Like if you look at the magnetic one, it's a J-hook with a magnet on it. So you can actually attach that to a red iron or purlins or stuff like that. And it can hold up to 90 pounds. 90 pounds. So this is going to be perfect. If you have like a painter pole, the kind that extend, you can extend it out and you can put that on there, put your cable in it, and actually attach it to the red iron without actually having to have a scissor lift. That's cool. That's absolutely cool. Underneath the magnetic one on the screen, you'll see one that comes with toggle bolts. A bridal ring that comes with toggle bolts. Pretty convenient. My problem with that is, what load can those toggle bolts handle? I'd be concerned that the weight would be pulling that through the wall. Okay. Just to the right of the magnet one, you'll see one that's for wood. It's got wood screw on it, so you can screw that into wood and stuff. And then one underneath of that, I'm sorry, the one underneath the wood one is actually the toggle bolt one. The one to the left of the toggle bolt is where you can use a powder actuated tool because it comes with the pin and you can just shoot it right into the ceiling. And one of the manufacturers, you look at the one all the way on the right hand side, again on the screen for the LinkedIn live stream and the YouTube, and all the live streams except for TikTok. There is a manufacturer who makes a bridal ring with this yellow insert inside of it, so it gives it a wider area so those cables can lay on. Now, with that being said, I still don't think that I would trust that with a high performance data cable. All right. When you're putting in a cable, you want to limit the damage to it. And while you may take due diligence to make sure you don't put enough in there to have the weight crush those cables on the bottom, what about the inexperienced tech coming behind you? Right? They may not be as well versed as you. So, I would stay away from that. Question number 3. This comes from Michael on LinkedIn. He sent this to me in a direct message. And I shortened the question down, but it basically says, which way should the door on the telecommunications room swing? Which way should it swing? So I found this actually in 2 spots in the TDMM. He specifically asked me about in the standards, but I looked up in the TDM. I don't have access to the standards for personal reasons. At work, I have them, but I don't have them here for my podcast. But in the TDMM, there's 2 spots where it references doors, and both of them say the doors should swing outward unless prohibited by the AHJ. They should swing outward unless prohibited by the AHJ. And the reason for that is you want to give yourself more room. But there are some other things that you need to make sure that door does, right? It should be hinged or removable. Right, so that way that you have the ability to take bigger objects in and out. And if you have to take it off the frame, you got a little bit more space. When it swings, it should be able to swing a minimum of 90 degrees. 90 degrees. And when you open it up, it should remain open. It should not be one of those doors that closes by itself. So it should remain open until you manually have to close it. And what those kind of tips do is it's make sure that there's more space inside the telecom room so the technician has room to access the racks, the front and the back of the racks. I was at the Bixie conference this year, and just the one just happened in Orlando a couple months back. And I was talking to a guy at the conference, and he showed me some pictures of some of the we got talking about space inside of telecom rooms, and he showed me one where literally when he closed the door, the doorknob would hit him in his butt when he was working on the rack. You got to give yourself room. Got to give yourself room. Here's some other tips for doors. They should be lockable, right? And have access control. So access control will be keyed. It could be a cipher system, anything like that. You want to keep them locked. You don't want unauthorized people going in that room. And then also the door should be at minimum 3 feet wide by 6 feet tall. Obviously you want bigger, but at minimum 3 feet wide by 6 feet tall. Those are the specs that are called out for in the TDMM when it comes to talking about putting in doors. Okay. Next question. This one comes from Glenn via an email. And Glenn asked me, do you have advice for pulling cable through a ceiling so that it doesn't catch everything? Again, I kind of boiled that question down, but what he'd asked was, he said that when he was pulling it through the ceiling, it kept catching the grid. Now, I saw a similar question to this on the Low Voltage Nation Facebook page, but they were asking specifically about conduit, pulling cable through conduit, not pulling through an open ceiling. So the key for doing this is when you do your cable, you want to stagger the cables. So if the one cable is going to be longer than 2 inches back, 3 inches back, you tape the second one, 2 to 3 inches back, you tape the third one, 2 to 3 inches back, you tape the fourth one. That way you got a nice slope on those cables. You want to tape those all up nice and tight. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and attach the pull string. Now, when you attach the pull string, you want to use a nut called a half hitch. A half hitch, you do a circle with the string, you put the head through that string. When you pull tight on the string, it actually bites into the knot. It's called a biting knot, for those who don't know that. The harder you pull it, the harder it's going to bite. You want to have 2 to 4 of those half hitches on that. But here, pro tip number 2 for the day: when you're taping up heads, make sure that the labels for your cables are far enough down the cable so that you don't tape over your labels. Okay, because when you get done pulling this cable, it's a lot easier just to cut that end off than have to untape and try not to pull labels off of it. Ask me how I know that one. Okay, and it's called experience. It's called experience. Now, when you tape the pull string, like I said, you want to do it, 2 to 5 times and tape that up. When you tape the very end, the one cable sticking out the front, bring that tape up to about 3 to 5 inches up the pull string. So that way it's got a nice smooth transition. Because if you only go to the end of that very first cable, that's going to leave a little ledge, and that thing will catch everything. It will catch everything as you're pulling. And that's going to cause you all kinds of problems, right? All kinds of problems. And those were the 4 questions that I had this week. So if you have a question, let me hop over to the comment section, see if anybody had a question submitted. Let me see, turn this up a little bit so I can see it. There we go. Let's go to the chat box in the live stream on LinkedIn, see if anybody had any question there. Somebody says Southwire makes a Stingray that clips onto the grid and has a smooth pathway for cables to pass through. Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's that goes into the corner of the thing. I'm gonna buy one of those because I think they're pretty cool. What I was talking about, that's Nolan. Hey, Nolan. When the cable's laying flat going across the grid over the things, or even vents and stuff like that, it's gonna catch on everything. Yeah. So make sure you tape it up all the way. Tape it really well. Another comment says best bed to pull high over the conduits and other things as high as you can. I agree with that. You want to go over top of everything as much as possible. But even when you're going over vents, sometimes it can catch the corner of that vent and it can snag and cause you problems as well. Right. It also helps to support along the way, keep it off the grid. Yes. And by the way, here's pro tip number 3 for the day. A lot of people pull cable through J hooks. No, you don't pull cable through J-hooks. You're supposed to pull the cable and then lay them in the J-hooks. And the reason for that is if you pull cables through J-hooks, that end that you just taped up is going to grab that J-hook. It's going to want to pull the J-hook with it, which is going to pull the grid wire with it or the independent wire you installed, preferably. And that's going to damage the jack, and then the ceiling. And then the ceiling contractor starts screaming something about their back and a charge. So I'm not quite sure what that means, but hey, so you're not supposed to pull through J-hooks, period. Another comment, can you use D-rings? I just saw a post the other day about D-rings. That was actually from TikTok, from George. So D-rings are generally used to manage and routing cables on a board. So, the cables are usually going vertical. So they're just kind of used to organize cables. So there's usually not any stress. I would not use D strings to run cables horizontally for the same reason I wouldn't use bridal rings. Okay, so there you go. No one says also don't cut the cables at 90 degrees, cut them at 45 degrees. Oh, that's an excellent suggestion. Excellent suggestion. Teresa is in the house. Teresa is an instructor from the Joint Apprenticeship Training Program in Utah. Teresa, did you see somebody I love social media. Somebody sent me a message. There's a Joint Apprenticeship Training. I forgot what the C stood for. Dang it, man, my head's. I'm going in vacation mode or something. There's a JATC in Minnesota that has a program where they're teaching Girl Scouts how to do high voltage and low voltage. Well, I don't know high voltage. I think it's low voltage. That's pretty cool. They're teaching Girl Scouts to do that. That's breaking that barrier. I love that. Are you guys doing anything like that, Teresa? Let me know. Because that is just absolutely cool. I reached out to the guy to see if he'd come on the show and do an interview. I don't know if he will or not, but So Brady says, leave a flag when you. Oh, that's a good one there. I forgot that one. Yes. So Brady says to leave a flag at the end of the tape. What he means by that is as you tape around the end, right? At the very end, you got that little piece. You fold it back over on itself. So that leaves a little tab. So that way, when you go to unwrap it, you just grab that tab. You just off it comes. Great suggestion, Brady. Great suggestion. So Teresa says that they're doing stuff like that as well. So that is cool. Nika and Bixie are also doing that. So nobody's typed any questions there. Let me flip through the comments on the TikTok real quick to see if we have any questions in TikTok. Klein is top tier. Look up the Fluke thing. Yep, Fluke Gennard. I don't think the Fluke is a current SKU. I'm going to look up the Fluke one to see what it is. Website or book recommendations. Okay, so what are you trying to learn? Website or book recommendations? So it kind of depends on what you're trying to learn. So for websites, if you're trying to learn fiber, there's a lot of free ones out there. fiberu.org. If you go on YouTube, you can find a free 2-hour course. AXFO has some good courses. Books, I tend to read more about business management than technical stuff, other than the usual stuff. TDMM, 8th edition, it's a manual. I've got those. I read them. I've got my project management manual. So, yeah, there's lots of them out there. Let me see. They use the Stingray. Can you use D-rings? So there were you had someone wanting to go live with you. Yeah, well, I told them no. So there you go. All righty. We are at 6:28. 2 minutes left. Any questions? Because I only had 4 questions this week. It was kind of a slow week. 4 questions. Working on some exciting projects, by the way. Some exciting projects. The 569E states the door shall open outward. Except for we're not in the E. Oh, wait a minute. 569. I have to look to see if the E is the most current one. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know one of them just changed. I want to say that I thought the 569 was the D standard, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong more than once. Yeah, the door shall open outward, but you got to be aware that there are some electrical inspectors that will not allow the door to open outward, because what happens if it opens outward, it goes into the hallway, and that limits the means of egress out of the building. That's why some AHJs will not allow it to go outward, in case you didn't know that. Because they're more worried about people getting out of the building in the event of a fire than the poor technician inside the room trying to work on some equipment. Oh, by the way, there will not be a live stream next Thursday night. I'll repeat that. There will not be a live stream next Thursday night. Chuck's going to be predisposed, and I won't have the ability to do a live stream next Thursday. So there you go, right? Chuck, you should mention the 606D specs in labeling floors versus telecom enclosures versus numbering. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So I got a question from Nolan. Here, I'll go and put his question up here. And he reached out to me about labeling. So the labeling standard is one of those ones that's really confusing and a lot of people don't understand it. But if you use it, it makes it so much easier. It really does. So I'm going to use an example. Okay. And I'm totally going to make this up. So let's say you got a building, 1-story building. It's got 1 telecom room and let's say 3 telecom enclosures, right? What's the best way to label that? And again, if you go by the 606 standard, it kind of lays it out automatically. Now, you don't have to use a floor number in that designation because there's only 1 floor, right? So you don't have to use the floor designation. But you do have to use an alphanumeric designator for certain things, right? So, so the telecom room, gosh, I'm trying to remember now. Gosh, I've slept since I did this. You can tell. So the telecom enclosure would be, TE1, and then there's like 5 or 6 or 7 rack units inside the telecom enclosure. So you would label those. So if it's at the very top, let's say it's rack unit 7. So it'd be rack unit 7, then it'd be port 1. That way you can look at it, say TE1-7-1. You know exactly which telecom enclosure goes to, which patch panel inside that telecom it goes to, and which port it goes to. It makes it so much easier. I'm going to have to do a more in-depth one on the labeling standard. I may have to get Todd on here. Brother Todd from BS Systems, Brother Solutions. He's pretty good at that kind of stuff. So, all right, we are at 32 minutes. So we're past our 30-minute mark. So I'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Remember, until then, knowledge is power.